There are some things I'll take a chance on, but life is already enough of a gamble for me to put my whole nest egg in the share market. So I take a calmer path. By investing in private credit, I know my money could be growing, not yo-yoing.
From Barangaroo Studios, the AusBiz COB is the key stuff you need to know about the day in business and finance.
G'day and welcome to the COB. I'm Andrew Gagan. Thanks for joining us here at AusBiz as we unpack the day, and what a day it was, dominated by movements in gold, and that did see the broader market fall. In fact, resources overall are a poor performing sector, and we can see that the CBO 200 finishing off around 0.6%. The move slightly more accentuated there on the ASX 200, having hit a record yesterday. It maintains its level about 9,000, but it is off around 0.7%. Let's get to the themes of the day. Profit taking. Well, I guess you could say that was across the board, but particularly in the gold sector, given the gold price took a tumble overnight, and therefore you saw the gold miners sold off heavily, and that led to a slide or a slid, as the case may be, from the ASX. Woodside win, well, I guess it's relative, isn't it? Because it had its quarterly production update there, so it was one of the better performers on the market. Let's take a look at do we have the sectors up? It would appear not. Let's check out the top stories then. Woodside increasing its 2025 production guidance while reducing its production cost guidance. Pinnacle Investment will buy up to 30% of Japan's Advantage Partners for $92 million. Atlas Arteria has said toll revenues over the September quarter were up 11% from the previous corresponding period. Mirvac reaffirming its FY26 distribution guidance of 9.5 cents a share, and Air New Zealand expecting to make a before-tax loss for the first half of the financial year because of higher engine lease costs. Checking in then on some of the sectors. Let's start with the gold, given that's where the big movers were, and some heavy movement there, particularly among the larger producers. Evolution down 10%, as was Ramelius and Genesis, the others following suit. In the energy sector, in fact, we're going to rare earths. Let's do that. Of course, we had that announcement yesterday out of the White House, and well, dare I say, profit taking there. Maybe it was a case of buy the rumour, sell the fact in the rare earth space. Energy largely positive there, aside from Santos, but as I mentioned, Woodside up 3.5%. Well, let's now get across what we're seeing in the market. Jonathan Takadena joining us from MPC Markets. Jonathan, welcome to you. You are our resident gold bug.
That's it.
So fascinated to know what you think of those moves. Look, I was just saying before you came on, this was coming, wasn't it? So what did you make of that move?
Okay, well, I remembered talking with Juliet actually when it crossed 4,000. I'm like, oh, look, that's a nice round number. We'll probably trade around there, and then put on another $300-400 from that point. So, yeah, as you said, it's certainly, you could see it coming. What I would like to see is that we saw heaps of photos of people in lines at the bullion dealers over the last couple of weeks.
Well, in fact, they were there today. So my question is, were they buying or selling today?
Yeah, exactly. So the question that, and we're actually going to chat to one of the gold sort of dealers in Sydney on our podcast. But the question I would have liked to ask over the last couple of weeks is: are you buying it because you're speculating short term, or are you worried about the financial system and you want some physical to hold as an asset? If that's the reason you're doing for, look, what's it pulled back? It's back down to 4,000 at its lows today. It's back at 41. So expect this kind of volatility because it is commodities. I've been in this game for a while, and these types of swings are actually quite normal. So if you've come into gold looking to actually park your money as a store of value, hold on. So that's all I'm saying. don't panic sell. If you're looking for a short-term sort of speculation, welcome to the party. This is actually quite normal. When you're trading and the consensus is push the market so far onto one side of the ledger, it doesn't take much for it to unwind quite quickly the other way, and that's what we saw today.
Well, I guess that metaphor, isn't it, of standing on the boat, everyone's on one side and over it goes.
Exactly.
Interesting also that herd mentality you talk of, really. There's a big line that forms outside, bullion buying. Mm-hmm. Why are you standing in line? Well, everyone else is in the line. I'm going to join it.
Well, the funny thing is, like when let's just say, you're in the town you don't know and there's just people lining up, it's usually a good sign, like that there actually is a decent restaurant there. But if you're just standing in line because other people are buying gold, not too sure about that mentality. But either way, the way I'm seeing things is that we're still at 4,100.
Yeah.
So it's still well above where we were even say 2 months ago. I zoomed out on the gold chart from the beginning of the year. So it rallied from the beginning of January to April when we had that dip, and that was a 30% rally. Gold did nothing for about 5 months, and then in the last, say, not even 2 months, sort of like 7 weeks, it's put on close to 30% as it's rallied since the beginning of September. So my thinking is that because there's so much hot money in, I think a lot of that will be tested now, and we might see a bit of chop and sort of sideways around the 4,000 level for another few months.
Okay, volatility, but consolidation, essentially. All right. Now, that's the gold price. What about the gold stocks? Because they were slow to follow, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that mean they'll be slow to fall? I mean, they've fallen quite heavily today, or that will be more pronounced perhaps with the gold stocks.
Yeah. So what you've got to remember is that their cost of production has been fixed, and now their profit level is around 4,000. So I think the average cost of production, or ASIC, is around say 1,500 to 1,800 US. If they're selling at 4,000, let's just say it falls back to 3,500, there's still quite a level of margin there. I think Newmont, at Unico, so the thing about US is that they report quarterly. So we're going to see a few actual reports for the first time of elevated gold prices in some of the producers in the US. And I think that might steady the price there. So yeah, you will see more volatility in the miners because that's normal. But I do think that even at these levels, they're printing so much cash that they will form a base quite quickly.
Now, Jonathan, all the action is in resources at the moment. Let's talk rare earths off the back of that announcement out of the White House. Now, I was just pointing there to the stocks coming off quite considerably today.
Yep.
Was that expected, do you think? I was mentioning perhaps buy the rumour, sell the fact.
I think so. So the thing with Arafura is that they actually got funding from the government early, I think it was say late last year, and then they got another round of funding, and that's what caused that initial jump. But the thing is, Trump is hell bent on shoring up sort of production there. So that's a big announcement there. If you have a look at some of the price action when they announced rare earths in America, so sort of with MP Materials and with antimony or antimony, I'm not too sure which one's right, but UAMY, that's been super volatile. But the thing is, he's hell bent on actually shoring up that supply chain. So I do think that while it has been in the short term a sell the news fact, I do think there's value in these companies, and I do think longer term, you do want to be long these.
All right, so you'd be happy to hold them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right. Let's look at the broader market then. We had a record yesterday.
Yeah.
So what's your outlook?
My outlook is that this is kind of like one of those rallies that technically it looks fine. Like it keeps making higher highs, but there's just not much participation in there. I think the biggest indicator that you want to look at though is Hub24. So Hub24, basically a financial planning platform that holds a lot of funds. They had record inflows onto their platform, and that shot up to new record highs. So there's still plenty of money out there, still plenty of money going to the market. I don't think you'll see, say, dynamic moves, but I do think this market keeps heading on higher. And you can just see that. I mean, look, I haven't looked at the latest ETF inflows on, say, Global X and some of the providers, but I think it'll be similar to Hub24. plenty of money going into the system, and I think that means that the number has to go higher.
Jonathan, great to get across markets. Thanks for joining us from MPC Markets. Well, let's now turn to our stock of the day, or sector, should I say, given that obviously the price of gold. So we actually got a technical expert in. That was Michael Gable from Fairmont Equities, and also Sanjay Narendran from Team Invest. So Michael was looking at the gold price, whereas Sanjay, well, they're not too keen on resources, but he was opting for a mining services provider in Mader. Let's have a look at what they said.
The bullish reasons for gold remain. So you've got a US dollar that will continue to weaken longer term, more and more US debt. You have central banks purchasing more and more gold. So these are, we could see the stats for this. This is really happening. Even in the past few weeks, we've seen China playing silly buggers with BHP's iron ore shipments, not wanting to accept US dollars. So there's clearly movement into the purchase of gold. It's just done a little bit too much in the short term.
A services company that has exposure to mining. Mader is a fantastic business. I mean, it's only had about 6 years of listed history, but it's had a strong return on equity, consistent over those 6 years, 27% growth. But that's something that I reckon would do well throughout any of these commodity movements as well.
All right, so let's check in again on those winners and losers in today's trade then. Bapcor is actually up close to 4.5%. It has been feeling some pain of late, so maybe some opportunity there as far as investors are concerned. Woodside off the back of its quarterly production update. Light & Wonder also on the list with HMC Capital, Beach Energy alongside Woodside there. On the negative side, it would be the gold miners, and they certainly take the top or bottom 5 position, as the case may be, some falling 10% plus. In the small caps, checking out movement there, Astron up 55%, Paradigm, Ecograph, Energy Transition, and Credit Clear. Some news out today in terms of a deal done for it. Negatively, in the small cap space, once again, it is those gold and silver miners, I might add, given the price of silver actually had more dramatic falls than gold. Checking out what's happening overseas overnight, we do get a read on UK inflation. Now tomorrow, we do have an absence of data in Australia this week. Nonetheless, on the corporate front, we can expect AGMs from BHP, ASX, IAG and South 32, and quarterly updates from Fortescue, Northern Star and Regis Resources. So let's recap where we're finishing this Wednesday, trying to make a bit of a comeback there, but we finished down around 0.6% on the CBO, 0.7% lower on the ASX 200, having hit a intraday record high yesterday. That is the COB. Thanks for watching and listening.
The COB is brought to you by Montgomery Investment Management. The world is volatile. Your financial future doesn't have to be. Find out more at montinvest.com.